of 45 to 47 years in prison. I recommend that you plead guilty. A plea bargain may result in a lesser punishment of 5 to 7 years.
Plead guilty to what?
Are you sure you want to plead guilty?
No.
To confirm your decision.
No, I'm not guilty.
Are you sure you want to plead not guilty?
I didn't do anything.
I'm sorry. I didn't get that. Please try again.
I want to speak to a human being.
Would you like to place a call?
Yes.
Who would you like to call?
The chief of police. The human one.
Please accept the terms and conditions in order to place your outgoing...
Fine.
Thank you for calling the LAPD. A human representative will be with you shortly. Please hold.
Hey, what does that mean?
You authorized the transfer of funds from your bank to place a call to...
The chief of police. The human one.
At $3 per minute for 114 minutes.
What? You never said that. Shut up!
Hey, it's his fault for not reading the terms and conditions. Welcome back, beautiful and amazing human beings. My name's Luke Radowski here of wearechange.org, and we have a packed house for you guys once again as we are going to be going live for the next 2 hours with some really awesome, incredible human beings with some fascinating conversations, as of course there's a lot to talk about, especially when it comes to the southern border, especially when it comes to a lot of the very tumultuous situations in democratic cities. All, of course, as it looks like Gen Z is literally preparing for disaster. We're going to be talking about that, plus a lot more, all here on this independent media broadcast for the next 2 hours. So make sure you share this broadcast with your friends and family members. As of course, you could also participate in the conversation by going to mysuperchat.com and then offering us a comment that you pay for. Any kind of comment that you pay for will be shown on screen with your username and your comments. We, of course, will be addressing all super chats, all Rumble rants. We prefer you guys use mysuperchat.com. It's not necessary, but when you do, you also are able to support this independent media organization a lot better than you would off of any other kind of donation platform. Another way to participate is by going to, of course, lukeunfiltered.com, signing up as a member. It's quick, it's easy, it's simple. It's less than 50 cents a day, especially if you sign up yearly, and you get the ability to call in to the show and ask us unscripted, unfiltered questions at about 8:30 p.m. Eastern when we switch over to, of course, Rumble, where the conversation there gets a lot more freer than it is on this particular platform that we are starting off this broadcast. Starting the broadcast with Josie, the red-headed libertarian lady who has joined us that I have actually called Josie the Outlaw by accident, but I think that nickname also fits, right?
Yes, it does. And I'm a huge fan of older movies, and that's Clint Eastwood, Josie Wales. So I'm into it. But yeah.
Great movie. Josie, who are you for the people who don't know you?
I am Josie. I'm the redheaded libertarian on X.com. I host a show called Spaces with Josie over on X, and I do outside media work at timcast.com.
Sweet. Clint's also here.
Clint Russell, host of Liberty Lockdown, co-host of Tower Gang, and co-host of thebestpoliticalshow.com. A pleasure to see you beautiful human beings once again. And we've got Steph smashing the buttons for us.
Hey, everybody. I'm Steph. I'm smashing the buttons for everyone.
She's a great button smasher. As already, we have a super chat from Red Viking that reads, "Dinner is hot. This woman is hot. The show is hot." Thank you, Red Viking, for the super chat and your support here. As of course, let's just get right into it as we have the first story of today, and that is this story from the Daily Mail that is reporting how the New York City comptroller is stripping away emergency powers from New York City Mayor Eric Adams because as already the city spent an estimated $1.7 billion catering to just 146,000 asylum seekers, aka illegal migrants, who, of course, the mayor welcomed into that city and now is coming out and saying, hey, can we have backsies, please? Can you guys please not come here, even though I invited you to come here? As it definitely looks like the city is going through a very difficult time as social services have been cut, particularly to some of the poorest people in that region. The cost of housing has gone up. The cost of labor has gone down. all officially a part of a kind of neoconservative Koch brothers globalist kind of plan that has essentially screwed over the majority of the American people and left a situation where the city has spent all of its money and doesn't have anything left after, of course, it taxed so much from the people already living there. For me, this is just a cruel joke kind of repeating itself. I don't know what you guys see with this situation, because with the situation in the southern border, it's only going to get worse from here.
Yeah, and I think, New York is just one example of many cities in blue states that are experiencing the same dynamic. Obviously, San Francisco, I'm from California more broadly, LA in particular. They're dealing with the same stuff, and I think that you're going to see insolvency. Basically, the chickens are coming home to roost with all of these globalist plans, and the local population, particularly the poor in the local population, are the ones that are going to suffer the most. So it's going to be very interesting to see if they continue to vote for these politicians that have brought this to bear. Unfortunately, I think they probably will.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many scams within scams. We're hearing about specifically, retroactively, a $432 million no-bid contract with a for-profit medical services that was accused of mistreating migrants that has come under scrutiny here. As, of course, let's be honest here, a lot of people are making money off of this situation, and a lot of people are suffering, especially the people who are told, hey, if you're in Latin America, you're not doing well here, come to America. We'll give you a lot of the money. And a lot of the times, they deal with essentially the government's DMV-like services that don't really deliver.
What I thought was interesting is shortly after the mayor came out and said, maybe we can't really take any more migrants, all of a sudden there was an assault claim against him from 1993 and now he's being investigated for that. And it sounds like he overreached and he upset the wrong people. And that tends to be the pattern that happens when you do that. As you become an assaulter, you become.
Well, and then another assaulter, the Como man, is probably looking to take his position of power as he's looking to become the next mayor of New York City, as Eric Adams might be on his way out, as the FBI literally confiscated his phones and are investigating him for some collusion when it comes to some Turkish government officials and some payments that he received from shady individuals.
But I just love it because it's replacing one dude with a assault allegation with another dude with assault allegations.
Hey, he's Italian. He just likes to hug people. The funniest response to Mr. Como was him releasing a frickin' video being like, it's not just the women that I grab inappropriately. I grab everyone inappropriately. And I'm like, that's not a good argument to make there, buddy. As, of course, what happened to him, I also believe is a larger conspiracy within the conspiracy, since, again, a lot of this outrage is very selective. If you look at the kind of targeted campaigns, they usually go after people who don't play ball. And when they don't play ball, they're like, okay, we got this on them, we got that on them, we could release this, we could accuse them of this. Now, Operation Destroy this politician who's not playing ball.
You can look up the date of when everything came down on Andrew Cuomo, and about a week before that, he had praised Donald Trump for his handling of COVID.
Wow.
Within a week.
Yeah. Which is pretty remarkable, because what's so frustrating to me is, like, Cuomo should have been thrown out of office because of the elderly that were put into the care homes with a bunch of positive patients, and that's not why. He was instead thrown out because he's Italian and he likes to grab a little bit too much of both men and women. But
he doesn't discriminate. He grabs all of them. He grabs everything. It hangs. It grabs. It's internal. He grabs it. He's not a discriminator. He's a very happy, jolly guy that has sticky hands.
Equal opportunity perverts.
He's an Italian man.
My stepdad's from New York, so I can kind of relate to that. They're loquacious. They're very handsy. So maybe he's not guilty of that. But what he is guilty of is a lot of misdeeds when it came to the response to that entire era. And it's very frustrating that instead of him paying a price for that, he steps down, and now he's going to now slot himself in to be the mayor of New York City. It's just New York politics in a nutshell.
Yeah, that guy's a top gangster. I mean, what he did to elderly families, what he did to people who were just shoved into nursing homes under those current circumstances, when there was literal huge naval ships that were entire hospitals that were on the shore of New York City. That huge park, Central Park, was literally set off as a mobile hospital. right? They had everything ready. They could have said, hey, okay, you're sick, you got some symptoms. Yeah, just go here so you don't kind of hurt other people. No, straight to the nursing homes, a part of what I think was a larger kind of, we're still here on YouTube, but if there was a government that was deliberately trying to off its own people, they wouldn't be doing anything different than what the governor of New York did in 2020. I'll just leave it at that, as of course we also have new footage coming from the southern border showing people entering the United States. Now, I don't think there's any commentary here, but what you see is a hole that has been made in the border fence, and one gentleman who does not cross into the United States. And there's border protection, just, scratching their butts, watching. And the one masked man who probably was orchestrating and organizing the whole thing just shrugs into the camera like, what are you going to do about it, buddy? As the fence has been torn down in a significant way. And people were just allowed to run in, and border security is just kind of standing there with their hands in their pockets. This kind of reminds me to what we saw during the summer of peace and love with what CNN described as mostly peaceful and fiery demonstrations during the BLM Summer of Love, where you saw New York City police officers literally kind of stand around as people were able to do whatever they wanted to the local businesses as they were looting, breaking store windows, and just taking whatever they wanted to do, with police officers literally saying, yeah, we're just going to walk the other way. We don't see anything here. Don't worry about it. That same kind of approach is now being instituted by Border Control that isn't just looking the other way here, isn't saying, hey, please stop doing this, but also lending a helping hand, saying, yeah, come on in. Hey, there's some barbed wire here. We'll help you. Don't worry. Just come on in. We don't know who you are. We don't know what you're doing. We don't know what's going on. And then, of course, people who legally want to enter the United States, they're like, yeah, you're screwed. Good luck. Not going to happen. That, to me, is just a system, especially with the welfare systems that we have in place in places like New York and California, a system designated for failure. How else do you describe it? How else can you kind of justify these larger policies that clearly are meant to suck up as much wealth, as much interest for the American people away from them than what they're doing right now? What would they be doing differently if they weren't trying to sabotage America with these kind of policies?
Well, a couple of things. First of all, Article 4, Section 4 of the U.S. Constitution says that the only duty of the federal government when it comes to militias, military, that sort of thing, is to defend the states from invasion. So to have, like, Texas militia there guarding the borders is a defense from invasion at this point, because we can't sugarcoat this. This is an invasion. This is a structured invasion. They just had a line of Chinese with suitcases like they just got off an airport, like off an airplane, standing there waiting to come in. So this is, I don't know who's paying for it. I could guess who's paying for it. But
you're telling me that 5 million people coming across the border undocumented is an invasion?
I know. I'm a conspiracy theorist.
Well, I mean, it's just so frustrating because, like, the average invasion from an army is maybe 100,000, 200,000 troops. We're talking 5, 6, 7 million. We don't even really know the numbers, obviously, because this is all, a black market operation, or at least gray market. So it could be upwards of 10 million people, but then Russia goes into Ukraine with 100,000 troops, and it's like, well, that's clearly an invasion. 5 to 10 million undocumented immigrants. Nope. Not an invasion at all.
Yeah, we talked about this yesterday, specifically with what U.S. Representative Dick Durbin was kind of putting out there, saying, hey, let's just enlist these guys into the military. They're all fighting age men. The recruitment numbers are low. And a lot of people have been kind of speculating, well, maybe this was the plan all along, as there is a population crash in the Western world, and we are going to be dealing with some significant problems because people aren't having enough babies and children. That's a real problem, but the establishment likes to tell everyone, hey, stop having children. It's bad for the weather, which is absolutely insane and
Yes,
absolutely freaking ridiculous. So I don't know if you saw that, Josie, and what your thoughts are on the U.S. Representative Dick Durbin making those specific statements. Do you think there might be some kind of real legitimate concern and interest for America? Or do you think they're just doing whatever they want, trying to destroy it as much and as fast as they can?
I always thought that could have been a possibility. What they were doing is because we have a depleted military because they gouged it when it came to.
And they fired a whole bunch of people for not following a rushed experimental medical procedure that they were extorting them to take. I'll just leave it at that.
Exactly, but how much loyalty to the Constitution can these people have coming through our border? Because that's that you take an oath, right, when you become military to the Constitution. So are they going to be willing to? If our government attacks us, are they going to be willing to fight for the people, or are they going to be willing to go? Like, I'm sure they'll be willing to go overseas, but are they going to? What's their limit? Like, if the government says, okay, you need to attack your neighbor, you need to raid your neighbor, like they have no oath to the Constitution. They don't care.
Well, and the truth is, I mean, they'll probably do it because they want citizenship, but it ultimately amounts to mercenary type behavior. You know, like you're being offered citizenship to go fight in Iran or whatever their next plan is. I had Tommy Robinson on Liberty Lockdown today. It'll come out after this show ends, and it was a fascinating conversation. It ultimately convinced me personally that the fact that this is happening to the UK, it's been happening for 20 years or however long, and the fact that he has been labeled an enemy of the state for discussing it, and now we're seeing the exact same phenomenon domestically. We're seeing it in most Western European nations. I find it very hard to believe that this is not a orchestrated plan, and there's lots of theories as to the why. But regardless, it ultimately amounts to anarcho-tyranny. You have people in these states, in Texas, that would like to stop this invasion. They are being halted from defending their own country, whereas the actual border guards are being instructed to assist the people in the process of the invasion.
Yeah. I understand some of the fears when it comes to maybe loyalty of the U.S. military if there's going to be, a huge influx of migrants that have to sign up now in order to get U.S. citizenship. But a couple of things to counter that. There have been previous programs like this that have been instituted.
I think the Civil War, maybe even.
Yes. And then more importantly, the U.S. military, even recently, especially as we saw during the George W. Bush years under Hurricane Katrina, they'll take the orders no matter if they're migrants or not migrants. They will illegally come around, round up your ability to defend yourself, violate the Constitution. And even if it's not a whole military filled with migrants, I don't think it matters. I think they're order followers, and I think they're going to be following some of the most craziest orders that you can't even fathom, you can't even imagine. I come from more of the kind of Michael Malice theory and thought on this, and he says something to the extent of you cannot imagine the atrocities and horrors that police officers and authority figures and military men are able, willing, and are very close to committing just because they were given an order to do it. So I think that's something that we need to realize here. And to me, it's kind of a more of a moot point because I already see from especially what we saw in Katrina, which was absolutely horrible. If you guys remember, what happened in Katrina was absolutely crazy, absolute mayhem. And police officers were like, yeah, sure, we'll round up all the people who have these defensive tools that we have on a list. Yeah, we'll take it away from them because this is for the better good of everybody. So they already did that. They're going to do that regardless, in my opinion, if it's even an army filled with migrants or non-migrants.
Well, I mean, you brought up the fact that the last time we saw this, or one of the other times we've seen this, where you gave citizenship to military participants or people that were willing to enlist, was the Civil War. That's not exactly comforting, Like I don't want to have. I mean, what we've witnessed over the past 3 years, very starkly, was some of the most patriotic, most stand-up members of our military have been purged from that system, and now you're going to replenish it with people who don't have the allegiance towards the American people that they did. Yeah. Clearly, those people did.
What if it's the power establishment not preparing for a war with Russia or China? What if they're preparing for a war here domestically inside of the United States, and they want to make sure the local population loses? Yeah. What better way to do that than, of course, bring in all the fighting age males and then enlist them in the U.S. military, and then when there is as many people prophesize and as many people are even preparing, a larger, Tim Pool can now take a shot, civil conflict unfolding here inside of the United States that now, of course, has an overwhelming huge amount of people fighting on one side and a depleting population and people who aren't having enough children on the other side, who, of course, were the current population here as of right now. So that's something to also kind of hypothesize. And I'm not saying it's happening, but with just how strange this entire situation is, every hypothesis I think is worth considering.
Well, something to watch for is A.G. Paxton. You know, they had a coup against him and tried to get him out because he has a 77% win record against the Biden regime when it comes to them doing unconstitutional things. He just had another win when it came to the border. I didn't get to read the article. I just saw it came out today. I don't know if it was about the buoys. I'm not sure, but he had another win today, which is great. What's alarming about a civil war happening in our country is that they abide by the Constitution when they want to, and then they violate it when they don't want to. One of the articles states that the regime has the right to call up the militias in order to fight for them, and we kind of saw that a little bit during J6 when they called up the National Guard and from the different states and stuck them on a parking garage to give us the illusion that there was an active threat that really didn't exist. But the idea, because militias are to defend the states, okay? So if there was some sort of war, we'd like to know that the militias in Florida would defend Florida and the militias in Texas would defend Texas, but there's a chance that the Biden regime could call up these militias to fight for them, which is just alarming and would be the end of it.
And it does kind of make sense when you look at the larger kind of policies instituted by this Biden administration that are bifurcating, that are dividing society amongst the left and the right, amongst people's races, amongst people's genders, because there is a larger divide and conquer agenda out there. And what better way to solidify your chances in an upcoming civil conflict that you're engineering in the first place than rushing in a whole bunch of people that are going to be fighting on your side for American citizenship, fighting other Americans. Again, that would be the worst possible case scenario that, again, we're just kind of entertaining the possibility of here, as anything and everything is possible here. And we asked the question earlier, how are they going to be paying for all these migrants? Well, this is one way, as of course we have another article here by the Daily Mail that reads, California retailers that refuse to have gender-neutral toys for children will be fined up to $500 under new ultra-woke Gavin Newsom law after uproar over LGBT toys sold during Pride Week. So how are you going to pay for all these illegal immigrants and all this welfare and all these social programs? You simply just fine and take away money from individuals who won't bow down and take a knee to the woke ESG score agenda. And this is just what California is doing. New York has instituted very similar laws, and so do other very democratic governments all around the United States, which is absolutely wild.
Whoa. Luke, I was reliably told that a Barbie is a gender-neutral toy. So what does this mean?
Are you assuming Barbie's gender?
It depends if Clint's playing with it or not.
So what does that mean? They have to bring in, like, trans Barbies? Like, I mean,
I mean, Ken already doesn't have a you-know-what.
Yeah,
so I don't
true.
know.
How much more gender neutral can Ken get?
Yeah.
Ken is the original Bruce Jenner.
Like,
I would argue.
Do they have to do away with pink and blue? Like, I'm just trying to. It sounds like a way just to a gotcha. Like there's no terms. There's no.
Yeah. Well, this is coming from a 2001 bill that was pushed on by Gavin Newsom that will be enacted January 1st, 2024. Jeez. And major retailers will have to comply with this. And of course, it's California. California has all the craziest, most ridiculous laws and rules and regulations that make life there totally unsustainable. So doesn't surprise me, as of course, a lot of places will face civil penalties, as a lot of this is against people's religion. A lot of it is against people's personal beliefs. I don't want to be forced to push this doctrine onto children, but now in California, you have to, or the state is going to take away your money at gunpoint, which is just theft.
What's so infuriating to me is that this is all part of the precedent that was allowed under the COVID regime, where the lockdowns basically were dictating what businesses were allowed to do in a way that they had never been allowed to before. And because of that precedent, the entrepreneurs that survived that period, which by the way is not many, a huge percentage of the small businesses are now gone from California. I'm one of them. Hello. But if there is market demand for these gender neutral toys, you don't need to mandate it. You don't need to do that. And if you're having to mandate it, it probably means there isn't a market demand. This is not even necessarily about the principles of the retailer. It's about supply and demand and whether or not this is economically viable. So once again, anytime you have the government intervening to set supply and demand issues, you end up creating problems. And it's infuriating that, he debated he debated Ron DeSantis just a week ago. And he's trying to brag about how incredibly high the GDP of California is and the innovation, the patents, and da-da-da-da-da. And it's like, yeah, but it's a totalitarian regime in California. It is the only reason that they have such a high GDP is because so many of these multinational conglomerations are stationed there. For a small business in California, it is just a wake of destruction. It's atrocious for the people that have actually tried to build a life there.
Yeah, now it's Pride Month every month in California,
Right.
as Lego actually issued a statement after this law was first kind of introduced in 2021. It's going to be officially implemented in just a few days from now, but Lego said that the company is going to be making sure that their toys are, quote, more inclusive for girls. Now, how do you make Legos more inclusive for girls? As of course, boys are kind of natural engineers. They like to build, and girls like to play with dolls. How in the world do you do that? I don't know.
Princess Peach. You got to team up with Mario and do the Princess Peach.
That was a horrible movie, by the way. I remember watching it with Tim, and me and Tim both having the same take on it. And then Tim's significant other was like, and they were like, no. That was straight up girl boss propaganda. That is not avoidable freaking anywhere anymore. And this is what a lot of people have fears, especially when it comes to GTA. But sorry, I cut you off. But that was a horrible, horrible movie.
I was going to say this Halloween, I didn't see any other costumes on any other little girls or mothers for that were not Princess Peach. It was Princess Peach was everywhere.
Interesting.
I haven't seen that yet. I'm supposed to watch it with my daughter. Have not seen it yet.
You're not missing much.
Yeah.
No.
I just wanted to add on what Clint said. I was a neuromuscular therapist for 10 years before I really did the Redhead Libertarian, and I was up in Massachusetts, and they closed all the businesses in Massachusetts, and then they had it tiered opening. And given I was a neuromuscular therapist and I worked directly with human beings, my tier wouldn't open until like the 6th or 7th tier of opening. So my business went under. I couldn't work up there, but now I'm a blue state refugee here in Florida.
I think a lot of us are. I'm from New York City. Clint's from California.
Yep.
You're from Massachusetts.
Yeah.
Steph's the only one who is from, of course, this former blue enclave that now is a red city.
Well, I think it's hilarious too, because a lot of the local Floridians look at us migrants and they're like, "Don't you dare turn this blue." It's like, we turned it more red. Calm down. We're here because of communism.
Yeah.
We're like the Cubans, for God's sakes. We're not going to turn this democratic.
I think I could be wrong. I think it was Scott Pressler, but I could be wrong about that. I adore him, but I think he said that they did some sort of survey with everybody, all the people. The influx of people into Florida, and it's something like 99% were red voters. Mm-hmm. Like nobody came here to vote more blue. They all got out of their states because their states didn't represent their values anymore.
Yeah, I met a local Miami person a couple of days ago, and she was like, "Oh, you're from New York." I'm like, damn right I am. This is my home. This is the city that we built, we made. The reason why things get done here is because of the New Yorkers. And she's like, no, senor. I'm like, yes. And I told her I refuse to speak a Spanish here. I'm not speaking any Spanish. You're on my schedule. You guys are always late. Okay, we build everything here. We build the roads. We build the buildings. We make things happen in this city. And the city wouldn't be as wonderful as it was for the New Yorkers coming here, infiltrating it, and making it ours. It's no longer Miami. It's New York City 2.0 without the communism and nonsense bull crap that all you guys were okay with a few freaking years ago. New Yorkers made Miami what it is right now, and I pat myself on the back for being a part of that myself.
I am so inspired right now.
She was pretty offended, though. She was not happy, but whatever.
Luke, did you play with Legos as a kid? Were you building up those buildings over there in New York?
let me circle back to that real quick, because this goes back to the exact same point I was making earlier. if there is a market for feminized Legos, then it would already exist. You don't need to mandate this nonsense. It's absurd.
What are you going to do? I mean, the Legos come pre-made,
As
right?
a mother,
Pink ones, pink Legos.
as a mother,
I've seen pink ones, and I used to play Legos all the time as a kid, and Barbie too.
Yeah,
I-
but you're
I
an
just-
anomaly.
The women Legos are already done.
I want to
There's no
weigh into this
instructions.
as a
It's like, here you
mother.
go.
There are pink Legos. They're the big ones, and I can't remember what they're called now. They're huge. They're like this.
the
and they're,
jumbo ones.
Yes, they are pink and they are purple, and they have the red and the blue set for the boys and the pink and the purple set for the girls. So my girls had the pink and the purple set because today I'm raising a pilot, an engineer, and a pediatrician. So my kids went in to want to do more of that sort of stuff as opposed to.
You hear this, Clint? The women need huge Legos because
Yes.
they can't handle the little ones.
They don't have
They
the-
need the special.
to
They
be
need
fair-
they need the special lead ones.
to be for
You don't know anything. Those jumbo Legos are awesome.
the toddlers require the big Legos because they will choke on the little Legos.
Oh, is that why?
Yes, that's
No,
why.
No,
I will die on that hill.
The pink and purple ones are big because girls don't know how to use them without choking. That's the truth.
Okay, all right, fair.
I'm just kidding. Okay, here's the reality: if you have a little girl who has an engineering mind, which it does exist, obviously,
Rarely.
it
Statistically
extraordinarily rare. It's basically an anomaly.
Yes.
But if it does exist, they're not going to look at them and go, "Oh, these are red and blue and yellow. I'm not going to play with them unless they're pink." And this, once again, it plays into the gender stereotypes, which is the most hilarious thing about it, because we're supposed to be doing gender neutral, but the only way it can appeal to women is if it's pink. So is it gender neutral or is it not? Sorry.
I gotta say, my youngest daughter, she's a genius, and I say she's a genius. She's gifted, but everything she does is like very scientific, and she just has this amazing mind. She has like a photographic memory. She can do all this math stuff, and she does it all in a princess dress. All of it.
Gangster.
So she crosses she crosses the gender barrier there with having, like, I guess it would be considered a male mind, but dresses like a princess.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
There's a lot of comments here from the Rumble chat that are pretty spicy that we can't read here on this particular platform. But in related failed government news and children who weren't raised right, we of course have this coming also from California, the great home of Clint Russell. As the governor there, Gavin Newsom, just announced that he is going to be canceling the Christmas tree lighting at the state capitol because of an alleged pro-Palestinian demonstration that, of course, was meant to happen during that event. As now, the ceremony will be held remotely, and Gavin Newsom's office will post a, quote, recording of the event. Now, is this bowing down to the woke mob? Is this dealing with a legitimate threat? Or is this a decision that you guys like or dislike personally?
I'll tell you exactly what it is. So you have the freedom to protest peacefully. However, the state has the right to regulate that with a permit. And if they didn't offer the permit, if they didn't grant the permit for this protest, then they can break it up and send it away because they have the power to do that. If they wanted to do that, they could do that. Instead, they choose to cancel the Christian event. So I think that just speaks to everything that we've kind of already known that's happening.
Personal angle on this. One, I don't think that the state should ever have the right to dictate via permit or otherwise whether or not I'm able to peacefully assemble. However, I think it has nothing to do with going against the Christians or anything like that. It's that Gavin Newsom's running for president, and he doesn't want the optics of there potentially being a conflict between Christians and these pro-Palestine protesters. I think that's all this is that he's trying to make his state look as functional as possible as it completely melts beneath his feet. That's my guess.
It's a war on Christmas. They're going after Santa Claus. Target has launched the first strikes by making him black and disabled, which is like messed up in the first place. The Nutcracker's doing more than cracking nuts now. And I think this is something that I think I agree with you more, Clint, on this particular issue, because it does kind of make more sense optically, as there was a Palestinian protest at the tree lighting ceremony in New York City, a protest that got a little bit out of hand. There was a little bit of shoving, nothing too crazy, nothing too wild. It wasn't very peaceful like CNN would describe it. But they weren't nice optics. We are seeing a kind of larger clash, especially around the issues happening now in the Middle East, with a lot of the left and a lot of the right kind of bifurcating in their usual support ways, where they're now fighting each other more more than they used to have before. So it does kind of make more sense, as of course he just had this big debate with the Florida governor, Ron DeSantis, and Biden. He's not looking too good. He's not looking too healthy. And if it's going to be anybody that's going to be replacing him, it is going to be Gavin Newsom. So,
well, shout out to Josie because she called this in January of 24, right?
No, 20.
23, excuse me.
23 on Timcast IRL. Yep. I said Gavin Newsom would be running for president, and it's going to be against Ron DeSantis. That's the matchup they want to see.
Yeah. Well, you nailed it because they actually debated, even though one of them's not even running for president, and the other one's got no shot at the nomination. But regardless, they're still trying to force feed it to him.
Did you guys watch that debate or no?
I did.
Yeah. Yep. I watched
What
it.
did you guys take away? I didn't get a chance to watch it. What did you guys think? Who won that one?
Ron DeSantis handedly won that. All of the graphs were on his side. All of the facts were on his side. The thing is, I'm pretty sure he's autistic.
Oh, yeah.
And so he couldn't really read social cues. He would get like a little flustered at times, and Gavin Newsom just kept doubling down on the same talking points and bringing up like fake facts. And then immediately Hannity would bring up this graph and say, actually, that's not it at all. Here's a graph. And it's from like an objective or even a left leaning source, like USA Today
or USA Today.
Yeah. And all these graphs were not trying to help Ron DeSantis, but then he'd just go back and he'd double down on his fake stats, and but he had more charisma, and charisma wins elections.
I talked to Gavin Newsom, and I was like, "Do you feel any remorse for ruining the lives of the citizens that lived under your rule when you were going off to these private dinners?" Essentially, that's what I kind of asked him, and he kind of blurted out this crazy fake statistic that had no merit in reality, and he I don't know if he believed in himself or he was just trying to get other people to believe, but he said it pretty convincingly. And I'm like, this dude's crazy. This dude is someone who doesn't have it all there to have a lot of humanity in himself, and is truly someone who is looking for more power for himself. And I think that's clear as day.
Crystal clear. Yeah. I mean, this guy is failing his way up. He was the mayor of San Francisco. Then he became the governor of California. He destroyed San Francisco. He destroyed California. Now he wants to be the president of the United States and destroy the only thing I have left, Gavin. You've destroyed everything. I used to love San Francisco. It was such a beautiful little city. And then you go there now and it's like Mad Max. It's atrocious. The rest of California is now almost completely unlivable because of this guy's reign of absolute terror. And now he gets up there and he just lies through his effing teeth saying that California is the land of the free and Florida is the land of tyranny under Ron DeSantis. I fled California because of his tyranny. It was a gaslighting marathon. I thought I was losing my effing mind. I'm sorry. I had to get that off my chest. America, do not vote for Gavin Newsom. He is Satan incarnate. He will destroy everything you love.
He makes my skin crawl. He looks like he hurts puppies. Like he looks like every villain in every movie where the animals talk and then the animals rise up and overcome.
If they remade 101 Dalmatians, he could play Cruella.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. He makes my skin crawl. Like, ugh, definitely a sociopath.
He's such a nightmare.
He's so slimy.
And what was killing me about DeSantis is like DeSantis has all of the facts on his side, and he's laying it out politely, and he's doing this like kind of feigned grimace smile, but it's like, just go after this dude. He's such a scumbag, and he just won't do it. And I think that was my biggest frustration. I do agree with Josie's assessment. Obviously, DeSantis won because he has the facts on his side, but it just was like, man, just hammer this dude for the sake of America, for the sake of human liberty on Earth. Crush him, please. And it didn't happen.
Yeah, what was interesting is Newsom kept bringing up how DeSantis had closed the state for like 3 weeks. And in that time, he was researching what was going on. And then he's like, all right, this is not a threat. We're opening everything back up again. He wanted to make sure we weren't all going to die. Found out we weren't. Open everything back up. But Gavin Newsom was going after him about this. Like, he closed everything down for years like he did. And like, that was a bad thing that DeSantis did, like comparing his record to his own record.
It was wild. He said
so much gaslighting.
He actually said that early on, DeSantis was following the science. And he was saying that basically because he stopped 3 weeks in, millions of people died that wouldn't have. It was such an inversion
But then
of
they
reality.
pulled up these two graphs and it showed the deaths in Florida and the deaths in California per capita were exactly the same, with Florida having, we are God's waiting room. People come here to die. It is elderly people that live here. And we still had, and I mean, I would say California has youth on its side.
Yeah.
But it was the same deaths per capita.
With some of the most vicious lockdowns in the entire country,
Mm-hmm.
and they matched Florida, which has like an average age of 75 or something.
Yes.
It's unbelievable.
Everybody's old. And so, and COVID attacked old people more than it attacked young people. So a lot of young people likely unnecessarily lost their lives.
And they don't know how to drive, and a lot of them drive here on the highway, and
Oh
they're
my
absolutely
God.
That's a fact.
crazy
Yes.
individuals. But it does seem like Newsom is kind of trying to position himself into a position of power, as Biden just recently released another statement today that kind of shows you that his heart is not really in it, and he's kind of being forced to do this in a weird ideology that he just exemplified by saying that he is not sure if he would seek re-election if Trump was not running. Yes, you heard that correctly. Joe Biden said this Tuesday that he would have skipped going for re-election if he was not facing Donald Trump, as he says Donald Trump poses a, quote, unique threat to the country that he wants to personally handle himself. I mean, look at that face that has been stretched so much by plastic surgery. Look at this poor sock puppet. Look at this poor flesh suit of a man that clearly is not right. Clearly, he is senile, he is crazy, he has lost his mind, and he is just a vessel for the globalist class that has their fist up inside him, elbow deep inside of the Biden administration, right in there, just using his mouth in order to just puppeteer these build back better policies that have screwed you over. And surely, if he did, let's just be honest here, let's just talk about strategically, he has failed on so many different levels. He has screwed over the American people. He has implemented some of the most unpopular policies that people couldn't even imagine becoming laws and policy in this country. And for him to say, I need to step up to go after Donald Trump is ridiculous, because it's fair to say, and the polls even suggest this, if Donald Trump was running up against anyone else, it wouldn't be as much of a landslide as it is now with him running against the current president of the United States. So clearly what he said here has no merit in reality, and clearly, if he really wants to take down Donald Trump, if he really doesn't want him to become the next president of the United States, he would back out of this election. He's saying he's not going to do that. So what is going to be the puppeteer's plan here, as it looks like they're absolutely failing and going to lose this upcoming election? That's something that I think is worth paying attention to myself. But what do you guys think of the latest comments from good old yeller Joe Biden?
I think the writing's on the wall. I think he said the quiet part out loud. I think he's saying, okay, well, if Donald Trump's running, then I'm running. So if they get Donald Trump in prison for 700 years, then Biden's not going to run. And that means there's the people who don't like Biden, the people that don't like Trump are all happy, because we're going to have who? Gavin Newsom and Ron DeSantis will be the chosen ones for this.
I still think Vivek has a real shot if Trump ends up actually being removed from the ballot. I think the vast majority of his base goes to Vivek, not to DeSantis. What
I
do you
agree.
think?
I agree with that. Absolutely.
Well, Vivek was the only one who said that he would actually pardon Donald Trump.
Yep.
And DeSantis kind of floundered on that specific answer and wasn't really clear when he was supposed to raise his hand or not, and was kind of like, maybe, and then gives these long-winded political answers about it instead of giving a clear yes, like Vivek said, because it's clear. Again, we've been critical of the former president of the United States, but his prosecution here is absolutely unjust and is absolutely targeted to stop him and deny him the ability to run as the next president of the United States in a fair election, which already is being skewed in a very unfavorable way for him.
Yeah, well, and it was skewed dramatically with Hunter Biden's laptop and the lead up, not to mention the speech suppression of people that were concerned about election integrity post November of 2019. It's devastating that his supporters have been treated so brutally. And to be honest, Trump hasn't really stepped up for them in the way that I would have liked to have seen. But it does seem to me like if Trump is removed from the ballot, I like Vivek as the favorite to take the nomination in the GOP. I think that New Hampshire is going to tell us a lot, and that's not too far away, so it'll be interesting.
Yeah, there are several amendment violations against Donald Trump. Like, I mean, his first, his fourth, his fifth, his sixth, his eighth, his his ninth. But what's really key is the Sixth Amendment violation. So you have 8 entitlements under the Sixth Amendment. You have the right to transparency and timeliness in your trial. You have the right to an impartial jury where you're charged and for that district to be alerted. And then you have the right to know your charges, face your accuser, gather your own witnesses, and have an attorney. And he's not allowed to do a lot of that.
His attorneys have been prosecuted.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. So they're prosecuting his attorneys. They're not allowing him to face his witnesses. They're not allowing him to gather his own evidence. Even when he has evidence to present, he was going to present something that said, in this contract, I didn't do anything wrong, and they wouldn't let him read it. So there's just several violations. And so this is all going to, whatever way this goes, in order to incarcerate Donald Trump, they'd have to incarcerate a Secret Service with him. And that would mean locking up innocent men for doing nothing. So they'd have to essentially build an entire wing of a prison somewhere, or put him on house arrest at Mar-a-Lago.
Hey, he's not Jeffrey Epstein, all right? Jeffrey Epstein only gets to do that himself.
He's the only one that gets work release.
Yeah. Not only work release, he built his own section of a prison, and then he had a program where he was able to run around with small children during the day, out in the open in public with his own private hired security. Unreal. And then allegedly he came back and slept at the jail, but there's even reports of many people saying he didn't even dare or bother to even come back. Incredible. So that shows you how fair the justice system is. And I don't trust this justice system when it comes to, of course, offering up, what is it now, 750 plus years for the former president of the United States. That is absolutely not just. That is absolutely an entire system that is extremely scared of the larger ramifications of what is going to be happening when he does become the next president of the United States, as it looks like he has a path for a clear victory here. And a lot of the polls aren't budging. A lot of the contenders, they're still way down here. He's way up there. And because of this, a lot of people believe that there's going to be a lot of tumultuous problems coming up during this election cycle, as of course.
Yes.
Yeah, as of course we have this main article here from the Daily Mail that we made the theme of for this video, talking about how younger Americans are fearing the 2024 elections could spark, Tim, take another shot, civil war, as they are preparing for, quote, disaster, as 40% of Gen Zers have spent money on doomsday preparations, a new survey finds. I think it's fair to say that a lot of these younger Americans are probably right-leaning, more conservative, more Republican-like candidates who are seeing the writing on the walls with a lot of political prisoners, a lot of prosecution, a lot of heavy-handed approaches by the state right now trying to stop Donald Trump. And are they wrong for preparing for the worst? In my opinion, nope. As of course, we are heading down a very tumultuous path, as a lot of people are afraid of what the system's going to do. And let's be honest here, a lot of people are afraid of what the former president of the United States is going to do when he becomes the next president of the United States. So you have high levels of fear. You have this political pendulum swinging back and forth very aggressively to one side. It's going to come back the other side. And when it does, there's going to be some ramifications to face for the clear, heavy-handed approach that the state has made here. So what do you guys think? Are these guys in the right for preparing, or is this something that has been a larger characterization of kind of fear-mongering and propaganda that we've been dealing with?
I think it goes kind of deep. So Donald Trump's cases in the states are falling apart, and which was kind of predicted to begin with in the first place. Because
they're bullshit.
Yeah. So if any of them goes through, what'll happen is it's going to go to the Supreme Court, who's going to strike it down and say this is unconstitutional. It's the same thing with the J6ers. And this is the intention. They knew this would happen. They want this to happen because as soon as that happens, they're going to say, see, these are Trump justices. Trump packed the court with his own justices. And the only way we have to pack the court now. And as soon as they pack the court with their justices, they do probably 16 and keeping what we have now. And they'd add seven
Wow.
Sotomayors.
Ugh.
Yes, that's what they would do. And
she
as
sounds
soon as
very
that
reasonable.
Happens, yep.
And she's also a part of the Bohemian Grove. I think it's her, right? Yeah, she's a part of the female Bohemian Grove Society. Sorry, go ahead.
I mean, it doesn't have to just be Sotomayor. We could get Ketanji Brown Jackson, who doesn't know what a woman is. So
exactly. So as soon as that happens, that the Supreme Court's the last institution keeping our keeping our country together. They're it. They're the last one, and as soon as they're gone, everything's gone. It's gone.
I've got to take this a different direction briefly. Sorry, are you?
Yeah, I'm done.
Okay. I just wanted to mention that the young people are absolutely right to be preparing for doomsday. It's not necessarily that you can really prepare for doomsday, because if it's truly doomsday, then there's nothing to prepare for. It's over. But if there is a huge crisis, it's very important that you be prepared. And I think that more and more people are realizing that our leadership is not only not assisting us in that preparation process, but actually bringing it forward towards us. So I'm grateful to hear that so many young people are concerned. I hope that means that there's a shift in what they are desiring and demanding from the political leadership that they're willing to vote for. And I hope that means that they will start to consider third parties and more dramatic action in that regard. And just one brief tangent that's really important. I'm very grateful that something like Bitcoin exists, because I think that particularly so much of the wealth has been accumulated by the elderly amongst us, because they benefited from this 30-40 year period of inflation through the real estate market, whereas the young people have been impoverished through that inflationary process. The one advantage that young people have is that they are more technologically savvy on average, and therefore many more of them have bought into Bitcoin and are now benefiting financially from this most recent bull market. So that's the one thing that gives me hope, is that as more and more young people realize that doomsday is not just about a nuclear apocalypse, but rather a financial meltdown that is totally avoidable, but ultimately now inevitable because we're ran by lunatics. I think that is a reason for hope as opposed to despair, and I would encourage them to continue to prepare.
Yeah, nukes are almost 90-year-old kind of technological advancements as right now. And I was talking about this today on my members' video, specifically being like, everyone's talking about the nukes, and they don't understand the capabilities of the military-industrial complex that they have right now that we can't even fathom, that we can't even think of how disastrous they could be. I mean, earthquake weapons, they probably already have it. The Russians are bragging about a tsunami weapon. They probably already have it. Creating hurricanes, creating natural disasters, going after infrastructure. All of that is possible, especially when you have sociopathic, crazy, neoconservative politicians that literally do occult-like sacrifices and different seances and different kind of weird demonic stuff. And as prepping something that's outrageous? No, it is something that I would highly recommend myself as looking into this Finders survey. They detail specifically how nearly 1/3 of all U.S. adults are preparing in some kind of way. And there has been a collective estimated $11 billion spent in the last 12 months on emergency preparedness, as that number probably is going to be going up very soon. As, again, it's not just sociopathic, crazy, demonic worshipping politicians that you got to worry about. It's also natural disasters. It's also human disasters. It's also solar flares. Who knows what could happen at any moment and time. But just having peace of mind, having just a surety that you're prepared for whatever comes your way, that peace of mind is absolutely worth it, especially when it comes to buying whatever you might need for your particular self. I got a Doomsday RV during 2020, decked out with solar panels, decked out with generators. I had, heirloom seeds. I was ready. I went into the sticks. I started preparing. I had a Special Forces Green Beret friend that I befriended that taught me a lot of different things. And I stayed with a diesel car mechanic, Jane Yoon, who was teaching me how to work on trucks. I got a Big Balls Becky truck right now in the front yard. And it truly was a big wake-up call to just how, especially in 2020, just how fragile the world is, and just how in a matter of moments, everything could be slowly taken away from you. And the only thing you have that's going to be there for you is you yourself. The only person responsible for you during a moment of crisis is you yourself. Look at what happened during Hurricane Katrina. That right there, during the Bush years, shows you just how low, just how messed up, and just how evil the government could become.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think 2020 was a wake-up call for myself and millions of other Americans, is that we realized that the government was not there to protect us, but rather it was more probable that they would be the ones that we had to flee eventually. So that was the lesson I took. I ended up liquidating almost my entire real estate portfolio and getting the hell out of there. I also diversified into Bitcoin and precious metals, and I sold my car, sold my house. It was very dramatic, and I think that a lot of people. And then I also started to focus on personal self-defense, and if you look at the charts of ownership in that regard, it's skyrocketed over the past 3 years. I think people, even though they're on, I think probably the majority of people are still largely asleep. I think that there's 30 to 40% of this country that has woken up and will never go back to sleep.
Yeah. When I moved from Massachusetts to Florida, there was a lot of stuff happening between the TQ agenda and between COVID. And it wasn't livable anymore. And I was seeing it affect my children. I had one child who was starting to get depressed. I had another child who had crippling anxiety from it. I had another child who was being set back. I found out they were keeping the windows open in negative 20 degrees because they were scared of the children giving them COVID in the schools. And it was just not a place I wanted to raise my children. And then they were coming for the cities, okay? And you weren't allowed to eat in a restaurant in the cities if you weren't vaccinated after 6 years old. So that was, I'm just like, I don't want to raise my kids in a state where they're not allowed to go in a restaurant. That's some civil rights level stuff.
You don't want to raise your kids in a dystopic technocracy?
No,
Wow.
no. So it was incredible because everybody up there was all masked and all vaccinated and boosted and all that. And, it was hard because my whole family's up there. I spent my life up there. Took my family, left, came to Florida. It was a new world. It was like walking, and not even a new world. It was the old world. Exactly, it was like walking into 2019, and nobody was wearing a mask, and everybody was happy and like just living their lives. And it took me a while to almost adjust to that, not have to like find a mask to leave my house, And so that's where the future is. The future is in strong states' rights because the states like Massachusetts and New York or California, they're lost. You're not going to win them back. No matter what you do, they've screwed up the voting so much, you're just not going to win them back.
Yeah,
so.
I think the future is with responsible individuals. I think it's the future is with individuals saying, okay, I'm going to take my life into my own hands and I'm not going to depend on the system that is thriving and making me suffer off of my ignorance. I'm not going to be ignorant no more about the larger agenda that is really out there to screw me over, take away my health and my wealth away from me. F that. I'm not going to be a part of that system. And the best way to do that is even on a small level. Get a raised bed. Get some seeds from food that you eat. Get some chickens. Get, a little bit of a water filtration system. And even if you don't have a water filtration system, you could actually even make one yourself with charcoal and rocks and sand. There's different particular ways of actually becoming a prepper and survivor, because I'm seeing a lot of people here comment here, oh, this costs a lot of money. Of course, prepper supplies cost a lot of money, but specifically when it comes to individuals being useful with themselves, the best asset you could have is your time. It's your resources, where you spend learning a lot of these important skills that could be useful, that are going to be a lot more important than you just going on a prepper site and buying whatever they have there, because that's not going to be helping you when, let's just say hypothetically, there's a solar flare and you can't go on Amazon and buy your prepper supplies anymore. You're going to have to be dependent on yourself. And, it's not about just being taken over by fear. It's understanding that the world is very tumultuous. Historically, we are seeing populations just being screwed over and over and over by the governments there, and also by natural disasters. So I'm a big proponent of telling individuals, hey, prepare for the worst because the worst is coming. And, you could live in a fairy tale land where you have your head in the sand and you got your buttocks up ready for anyone to take. But that's not the type of world that I choose to live in. That's not the type of world that I want to be living. I don't want my tuchus up there in the air laid bare for whoever wants to take it. I don't want that. That's not me, okay?
That's the way I live my life.
Yeah. Clint could live on his own terms as Clint wants, but me, that's just not me.
And a lot of times there are books you can buy, like a prepper book, and it's going to say, these are the safe plants to eat. These are not the safe plants to eat. Yeah. Here's how you make survival food that lasts 25 years. And that's all, you spent $25 on a book, and then you're able to learn how to better be a prepper just by knowing the knowledge around you, and just by knowing trees and bushes and recipes. And
you don't have to put tens of thousands of dollars into this, especially if it's not at your disposal. It's just that if you have any resources, if you spend 50 or $100 just to have some of what she was describing, that puts you ahead of the average person. So why not?
Yeah, we created a little prepper book for members of LukeUnfiltered.com. As of course, we had a masterclass that we sold. Now we just make it free for members of LukeUnfiltered.com, where we have 50 plus videos teaching people how to land navigate, how to build a fire, Dakota fires, how to filter their own water, how to defend themselves, marksman, ship training, you name it. We got it all available on LukeUnfiltered.com, where of course also signing up guarantees your ability to call into the show, as we are going to be taking phone calls in about 30 minutes on Rumble, where of course we will be moving this conversation and having more of an unfiltered one, getting into more spicy hot button issues that we cannot get into on this particular platform. So we're going to be making the switch over to, of course, rumble.com. Again, I don't know if we're up on the front page there yet, but if we're not, you could always just go to rumble.com/wearechange. Yes, we're here, available for everyone, next to Glenn Greenwald, who is also live right now. So go over right now to rumble.com, and we will be continuing the conversation. Before leaving YouTube, Josie, where can people find and support your work?
you can go to x.com and find me at TRHL Official. And then you can go over to timcast.com, become a subscriber, and help support our work.
Clint.
At Liberty Lock Pod on Twitter, a.k.a. X, as she said. Got 113,000 of you over there. Thank you so much for following me. If you want to subscribe over there, that's a great way to support my work. LibertyLockdown.locals.com. Episode with Tommy Robinson drops at 9 p.m. tonight on Rumble. So if you could subscribe on Liberty Lockdown there. I'm currently suspended on YouTube, so I would appreciate that. And yeah, that's it.
On Instagram, at Steph We Are Change, and that's it.
Go over right now, rumble.com. It's that simple. Anyone could spell it. Even Clint could spell it. Rumble.com.
Barely.
Go over there right now, as the conversation will be continued and getting a little spicy and tumultuous. There's a lot of you guys here on YouTube. It's awesome to see people vote with their clicks, vote with their attention, vote with them just saying, you know what? I want to be where all the people who are fighting for me are going to be. And let's just be honest here, Rumble is that platform. A lot of you people don't like leaving YouTube for some reason. You guys are very convenient with Miss Wojcinski over here